Well, hello there, my good friends. Mr. E here, and this, as you might recognize, is the Hive Scum talent tree. Or is it? Because this is actually the new Hive Scum talent tree. That's right, Fat Shark is not yet done doing whatever the heck it is they're doing with the Hive Scum. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills saying this, but I think the Hive Scum just got a really, really big buff, as if he really needed it. He got crazy strong and got some very cool, unique new talents. For better or for worse, it's going to add a lot of unique playstyles and specific things that only the Hive Scum can do, which is pretty cool to say, but at the same time, he is going to be absurdly powerful after this. So before I get into it, I mean, there's tons of stuff that has happened with this update. I'm going to try to get you all caught up on it from between now and when the release date is. But yeah, if you want to make sure you catch all of it, definitely subscribe to the channel. You could become a channel member and help support me and keep me making Darktide content. And big appreciation to those of you who are Mr. Emperor tier. That's Elise, that's Neva, and that's Sai. Thank you so much. I love you all. Mwah. Okay, let's begin here. And let's go over the talents that are in each area, and I'll show you how it compares with the old tree. Now, I wanted to do the breakdown for all the Hive Scum weapons that have changed today as well. I read in the kind of abridged patch notes that they gave us that there have been some changes to the dual shivs and to the stub pistols. I believe the stub pistols is a buff. I would have to guess the dual shivs is a nerf, but I think that isn't live on the version that I have. So I'll be making a separate video about weapon changes with this patch, because it's not just those two, it's actually quite a big host of weapons. And I'll be making another separate video about all of the other classes and their changes all together, because those classes have had kind of a lot less done than the Hive Scum has here. So let's start here. We've got some very familiar faces in your face. Poison Tertium, Quick and Deadly, Precision Violence, Tertium Welcome. Down here is Float Like a Butterfly. Then we got Sticky Hands, Burst of Energy, Calling for a Timeout, and Speed Loader, right? So we've seen all this before with that 25 toughness boost there. Let's compare that to the old version. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. Let's hypothetically make a build that is a ranged build that uses Critical Strike. So let's say we're doing a ranged dual stubbers build, or a ranged infantry autogun build, right? Both of those builds want a lot of critical chance. So what we want to do is we'd come up here to In Your Face, then we'd take Voice of Tertium. We definitely want to take Speed Loader, and then we might take Calling for a Timeout, but let's just assume we don't, and we'll go Burst of Energy. And we gotta get Sticky Hands so we have better recoil control. And then what we really want is Float Like a Butterfly here, right? This would be an excellent boost to our critical chance. And unfortunately, in order to get that, I have to take either Tertium Welcome or Precision Violence, both of which are melee talents. So I may or may not get any value out of this on my build if I'm going exclusively melee style. Now, Precision Violence is pretty good, so it's not that big a waste, but look at the new tree. The new tree, if I wanted to make the same build, I could do Voice of Tertium, In Your Face, then I could do Speed Loader, then I could do Burst of Energy, Sticky Hands, Float Like a Butterfly. See, I can get that without spending that extra point, so you have a lot more interconnectivity here. And also, if you really wanted to play very fast and loose, you could potentially avoid this toughness node down here and go out into one of the blitzes. But note that there is a mandatory through path. In order to get Boombringer, you must take this 25 toughness node. Now 25 toughness is a lot, right? It's base toughness, so it's modified by all of your other talents and your curios and stuff. So it's generally going to be like a no-brainer to pick, but it is a mandatory pick in order to get Boombringer. And Boombringer is going to drop you out at one guaranteed spot. Yet another talent that's probably a guaranteed pick in most people's build, but it's going to mean that, like, yeah, you are coming out into something that's like one spot. You don't get a choice coming out. Versus if you went for one of the other grenade choices, which are slightly weaker because they haven't done any changes to Boombringers. As so far as I can tell in my testing, no changes have been made to these grenades at all. But they have made this one slightly weaker by its positioning. You can only get one choice coming out of it, and then if you wanted to go to somewhere else and be in a different position, then you have to spend another point, right? If you went for Chem Grenade and for some reason you didn't want Tiz but a Scratch, but you want a Slippery Customer, you have the choice to go to either, right? Which is nice to have that sort of versatility. Now, in this area, let's down here, let's look at this area. This area is very much changed from what we have in the old Hive Scum tree. So look here, we had a node called Gang Tough, then Regain Posture, Nimble, Slippery Customer, Jittery, then Tis But a Scratch, and Untouchable. And then back on this version, we have something very different. We've got Regain Posture, Tis But a Scratch, and Slippery Customer here. Now Tis But a Scratch is taking that top spot where Gang Tough used to be. Gang Tough is gone. It's removed from the game because it's like, you know, it's a guaranteed pick node. It's not necessary, so it's gone. Then we got Jittery down here. Then Sample Collector. What is Sample Collector doing here? Wow. So Sample Collector was such a powerful node. I want to point out something. Here's my Hive Scum, all of my builds, which I'm going to have to redo a lot of them, obviously. These are all the builds I had for my Hive Scum build compilation. Look at how many of them choose Sample Collector. Literally every single one. Why is that? Well, Sample Collector is so stupid good. It is so integral to the Hive Scum as like a class that, like, how are you not gonna pick this stuff? So they've moved it in the center here where pretty much everyone's gonna get it, right? You can choose not to get it if you want to, but it's pretty much everyone's going to get this. Then Ramping Backstabs over here, very interesting with the number of talents. I think they cut like at least 5 talents from this tree, and to not see this one cut was very curious because I feel like this is such a weird talent. It doesn't work very well in Darktide because Darktide's backshot. What am I thinking about? Darktide's backstab detection is not the best. It's kind of like TF2's backstab detection. It's kind of all over the place, and a random enemy walking in front of you at any given time might reset it. The boss might whip around in a direction that you get a shot on his side instead of his back. Yeah, it's really hard to keep this buff up, and it seems a weird kind of hit or miss one. Plus, like, most times enemies are looking at you, right? So yeah, this one survived, but is here. And note that they got rid of not only Gang Tough, but they got rid of Untouchable, because this was just such a weird thing. Threat reduction is worthless for the most part. You know, threat reduction is not exactly a thing that needs to be in Darktide unless you're going for a specific stealth build, and this just made it like knowing how enemies are going to react around you just weird. Doesn't allow you to learn the game very well when sometimes enemies just won't attack you and sometimes they will. Now, here in the middle, you might have noticed we got something very interesting going on here. We've got Keystones, midpoint Keystones, just like the Arbites has for his dog. So these are exclusive. You can only choose one. And let me show you what they do. So the one we are familiar with, right, is Nimble. Nimble increases your dodge speed by 25%, and the time during which you have invulnerability frames by 0.15 seconds. So it makes you a lot more durable, especially like in a melee combat scenario. And because you have that 25% additional dodge distance, or dodge speed rather, it's going to give you a little bit of extra distance on that. So let's show what sort of distance we get here. Let's dodge from the center line, and we'll just dodge out. Okay, so I ended up like right about here on that, just to the right of that little bolt there. Now, if I swap to my other node, which is Allyrad, 50% dodge distance. Let's dodge with this. Wait, I did it wrong. I don't think it was counting it yet. Okay, wow. Okay, so we are now here. We are a lot farther away than we were before. And yeah, one thing that you'll note here is you can move a really, really long way with this. Like, that is a massive, look at the, like, you know, you ever had problems where like crushers will overhead you and you back dodge and they still catch you? Not anymore, because that's what your back dodge looks like now. It's fucking massive. So, you know, dodging, spamming dodge on this character, this has to be faster than walking at this point. And guess what? They still have down here, Jittery. Dodge recovery speed is 40% increased. So now the fastest way to move around the arena, just dodging. We're just dodging. We're just motoring on. Even if you're out of dodges, your dodges are still like as big as normal dodges are. But look at this speed. Like, this is crazy. The Hive Scum is easily the fastest class of the game. And you know how, like, some Hive Scums were able to get up on tables and then go like, wee, and just fling themselves, like, off of a ledge or something and go like 1 million light years? Yeah, get ready for that to be, like, times a million with this. This is such a fun thing, and you get a huge boost to kind of sling off of with it. Repositioning with this is incredible. This one is going to be good. I don't think it's going to be that great for melee. It'll probably be pretty good for melee, but because it gets you so, like, you displace from what you were on so far, if you're fighting with a crusher or something and you go to dodge away from him or like dodge around his attacks, you're going to move yourself out of the range where you want to be attacking. Sometimes a shorter dodge is better, where you just like kind of dodge and then stop so that you can keep attacking on the same target. That's what the melee's for. But for ranged characters, there's no fucking way anything is going to catch you with this sort of dodge speed. Now, granted, I'm using a dagger, which is probably like one of the longest dodge distance weapons that he has access to, but it is still absurd and it's really funny. And I can't wait to see people zipping around the map with this and then getting killed by an overhead. Okay, so down here, of course, we have Jittery, Sample Collector, Random Backstabs, and then we've got our 3 auras, unchanged as compared to the previous versions. But what we note here is that below this, we actually have a really different connective structure to this the ability section. Previously, you had a free choice because of this center 25 toughness node. You could choose any one of the 3 auras, and then you could choose any one of the 3 abilities. Now, if you choose a certain aura, you are going to have to choose one of these 2, and then that 25 toughness node is gone. The toughness, the 25 toughness, has been wrapped into the baseline of the class, so it's actually saving you a node there. However, in its stead, you will have to pick up one of these 2 nodes in order to make your way down to the abilities. And this is very interesting here. So what you'll have to do if you're going for Ruffian or Gunslinger, you want to go for Enhanced Desperado here, you're going to have to choose Long Lasting. If you want to go for Enhanced Desperado, but you want to choose Anarchist for the 5% crit, this will mean you have to choose both of these nodes to get over here to Enhanced Desperado. Now, these nodes aren't bad, but this one might not really have that many use cases, Blessed Stims, because especially if you're going for Stim Supply, you kind of already have that effect. But Long Lasting is kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, it makes your stims 33% longer, but it adds 5 seconds before you start to get your cooldown back on your stim. So it can actually have some downsides. And this also notably doesn't apply to Stim Supply's duration when you have this buff with the fast-acting stims. So yeah, just keep that in mind. That's probably why it's over here. And then if you want to go for the center node or Rampage, you can choose either one, right? I think what they're trying to do here is like deprioritize Anarchist plus Enhanced Desperado. Anarchist is, I think, by far the most popular one of these, and then Gunslinger was like the least popular. But they want people to choose Gunslinger with Desperado to get more of that value. And we might need the ammo because, well, you'll see why in a second. So we'll assume we choose one of those and we'll go on to the next part of the tree. Now, all the abilities are unchanged. There is no changes to the abilities. I've looked over them several times and I've played with them. There has been no changes here. So we're all good there. But good Lord, what has happened to the bottom of the tree? This is radically different than what we had a little while ago, and yeah, it's quite beautiful actually. It kind of looks like some sort of dangerous forbidden jewels. We're going to start at the left here, and then we're going to move to the right, because at the left is many familiar faces. We have actually a couple of new things here, and then on the right side we have some very, very different stuff going on with the toxin tree. But notably, they have not changed the keystones at all. I think they must still be working on this, because these are like entirely exactly the same, and they've got to know at this point that players are not very satisfied. They've got to see the play rates and see that chemical dependency is like whipping everything else's ass. Yeah, so maybe they're going to come back for that. Notably, they have changed other characters' keystones with this. RB's looking at you. Look for that video soon, by the way. Now, let's go over here and check out what we got. So at the top, the 5% crit chance, and then Swift Endurance. This is the same as we had before. Note that you can reach Swift Endurance, unload an ammo jack, all with 1 point. So we've got Swift Endurance, unload an ammo jack right here. Then for 1 more point, you can buy Sweet Spot, or Hypercritical, or Pickpocket. And oh boy, look at Pickpocket. Killing an elite or specialist enemy with a melee attack while ammo reserve is below 20% will refill it to 20%. So this has now been nerfed. This is apparently this is the nerf they're going to go with. You have to get the kill with melee, which honestly isn't all that hard, right? That is not that high an expectation. Still means that you can effectively have infinite ammo on the Hive Scum, as long as you can land 1 melee kill. And right, this is a elite or specialist. Just kill a dog, just kill a charger, just kill like a random flamer who comes towards you, you know? Like, it's not that hard to pick up a random elite or specialist kill these days, and that'll give you 20% of your ammo. like you can just sustain for pretty much ever. What this is going to do though is it's going to be a big nerf to the builds where you literally never engage with your melee at all. You're just shoot, 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 and you're just aiming to shoot with your last couple bullets and kill another range target. You'll have to swap and go actually engage an enemy for a second in order to get 20% back. And you might actually have to pick up some ammo from time to time too. Boo-hoo. Okay, down here we got moving target, of course. As I said, Vulture's mark remains unchanged, but then over here, Channeled Devastation, a new talent. Each 1% of your current critical hit chance grants a stack of 0.5% melee damage, stacks 30 times, which is a cap of 15% melee damage. So we get a 15% melee damage boost here, which is going to happen most of the time. Hive Scum has a 12.5% base crit rate chance. He also has a 5% crit node that you have to take to get here. He's got a 5% crit aura that many characters choose. So now we're at 22.5, and he's got a talent up here, Float Like a Butterfly, that's going to put you at 40. Or 42.5 plus like whatever you got on your weapon plus whatever you got on your stims. You know, you might also be in chemical dependency, right? You could take chemical dependency and be picking up to an additional 20% crit over here, and then you could grab Channel Devastation. This is just a really massive buff to damage, and it is melee damage. So one thing I'm going to point out here is that melee Hive Scum made out like a fucking bandit in this. I have no idea how they looked at the sort of like ins and outs of Hive Scum and said melee is what needs a buff, but melee is god tier now. I think that if I were to re-rank, and I will, you know, give me like a week or so to get to it, but I will be re-ranking the classes. I think if we approach Hive Scum from like focusing on melee as like its main core concept, it is the second strongest class in the game. I think it is very easily the second strongest class in the game. It still can't compete with like Flame Staff and stuff like that, but it's passing by Veteran because of the sheer insanity that they have given this thing. So let's go over here to the middle tree and you'll see a little bit more of why. Punching above one's weight, Hive City Brawler, cheap shots, and battering strikes are all unchanged. Down here we've got battering momentum, which is unchanged, and hyper violence, which has not been changed or nerfed in any way. But then we've got a new node right here called Street Tough. When taking melee damage, knock all nearby enemies around you backwards and gain 10% movement speed for 3 seconds. Can only trigger once every 8 seconds. This is so good. I cannot express how good this is. This talent, first of all, belongs on Ogren, but it's on Hive Scum, and what this is going to do for you on Hive Scum is invaluable. You don't realize it on its face because it just seems like, oh, it knocks stuff back, right? But the real danger to dying in melee or getting hit in melee at all is not just getting hit, it's getting hit 2 times in sequence. Having 2 poxwalkers go boom, boom, less than like a quarter of a second apart. If you get hit and you realize you've been hit and you've taken a chunk to your toughness when you're at full toughness, right? You don't take any health damage, but then that follow-up attack wallops you, right? This, if the first attack hits you, immediately everybody around you gets knocked down, and then you can realize that what's gone on, and you have the speed to disengage. You can disengage and get out of there and get your toughness back. And every 8 seconds is a very generously short amount of time, where like it's pretty easy, given that you're Hive Scum and you're that evasive, to dodge for 8 seconds. And then this is actually, I mean, I kind of asked for this a number of times. I didn't think it would come after this number of buffs to Hive Scum's melee prowess, but yeah, something it's kind of a, oops, I fucked up one time, I need a little bit of a breather, but the Hive Scum is so hard to catch already now, and he's already got a lot of defenses. Like he's got damage reduction right here, he's got a lot of like you know, regen and stuff because they actually fixed these. Got burst of energy at the top of the tree, so he actually is very hard to pin down, and when you do pin him down and land a single attack on him, boom, everything gets knocked back, he resets, he gets the fuck out of there. So yeah, this is a incredible talent for melee. And also for range, I suppose, too. If stuff is gathering around you, it can knock stuff back and save you in your hide. Then over here, we have to go into the Toxin Tree. Now, the Toxin Tree has seen pretty much a full rework here, and it is very different. I don't know if it needed this, but the Toxin Tree got more powerful. Let's go into what it has. So we've got Potent Tox here at the top, and then notably, we've got extra pouches just like we had before. But remember, sample collector's up here now. So in previous times, you would come down here and take extra pouches because it was on the way to sample collector. Everyone was going to take sample collector, Extra grenades is good. Like one extra rocket, one extra chem grenade is amazing. But if you're going for the flashbangs, you might not take that because the difference between 5 and 6 is not huge. Notably, if you are going for a full melee focus build and you have no interest in what's over here, well then you have to, if you want that extra rocket, you have to take this node, which is pretty much worthless to you if you have no chem spread or no toxin spreading in your build, and then you have to take extra pouches. So it is a little bit of a nerf to extra pouches, which is probably good. Then we've got, we already talked about code weaponry up there. No, we didn't. Code weaponry, the one you remember this one. Then over here is Toxin Mania. Down here is Targeted Toxin. And then over here we have Pocket Toxin. So those are all unchanged. Now down here though, we have a new one. Virulent Strain. When infecting an enemy with Chem Toxin, increase their damage taken by 10% from all sources for 5 seconds. So this is a really big buff to toxins in general. Of course, it's going to be a big buff to Needle Pistol, which didn't really need it. But yeah, now when a toxin gets spread to an enemy, every source of damage, all your allies' damage, all their damage over time effects, the toxin itself, your melee damage, all that's going to get boosted by 10% for the next 5 seconds. So yeah, chances are they're going to die before the 5 seconds are up. Then over here, we've got a change to Toxic Renewal. Previously, let me just show you what the old Toxic Renewal was. Here it is. Wait, that's the wrong thing. Here it is. Toxic Renewal was 15% toughness when an enemy infected by chem toxin is killed by a melee attack. That only worked if your melee attack itself got the killing blow, which was hard to do, harder than you'd think, because what would happen would be we had like, you know, the toxin on the enemy, you'd hit them and take them to like 1 HP and the toxin would kill them. And that doesn't count towards this. Now the change is way better. 1% toughness every second for each chem toxin infected enemy within 15 meters up to a maximum of 10 enemies. And 15 meters is a large radius, right? So this means that you're going to be regenerating 10% of your toughness per second if you can keep spreading these toxins around, which is very easy to do with things like the Bone Saw. Bone Saw gets a massive buff out of this rework, by the way, because Bone Saw has great synergy with tons of melee talents and tons of toxin talents. And yeah, so this is going to mean you're constantly regenerating, and constant regenerative effects. I've talked about this at length before, but constant regenerative effects are the strongest type of toughness regeneration in the game because they start to go into effect the second you lose damage, right? Or you lose toughness. If you get shot by a single bullet, within 1 frame, you're going to start to have recuperated some of that lost toughness because this effect will always be on you while toxins on enemies. So incredibly valuable here. And then the final one that I think is another thing that's going to push melee to being god tier for Hive Scum is called Splash Damage. Splash Damage, killing an elite enemy with a melee attack infects up to 10 enemies within 4 meters of the target with 2 stacks of chem toxin. So let me actually show you what this looks like. We'll go here and then here. Okay, so we've got our splash damage, and then we need to actually get an elite enemy near our allies, so we'll use this. Okay, and let's get an elite enemy. So it is within 4 meters, so it's a pretty close range, but you know, if you're playing, you know, higher difficulties, enemies get pretty packed together these days, don't they? It's pretty tight quarters out there. So it is important that you have to get the kill with the melee attack itself. So it can't be a toxin effect or something that gives you the damage. But we'll go ahead here and we'll kill this guy. And there you go. This is what 2 stacks of toxin does to all these enemies. Now, keep in mind, right, that when you kill one elite enemy, there's usually multiple others nearby that are going to get this toxin effect as well. It's going to get spread onto them, and it's going to hurt them a good bit if they die to the toxin. And if any of these enemies were hurt for any reason and they died to the toxin, what that would do is it's going to give you massive resets on Sample Collector. So it's just going to be so much better. You're going to be spreading around toxin everywhere. So toxin is going to be on all these enemies, which means you're going to be recuperating a ton of your toughness from Toxic Renewal, even though it only lasts for like 3 seconds. That's 30% of your toughness over those 3 seconds if you get it on 10 enemies, because it's all grouped together like that. You're also going to max out Toxin Mania, because that's just 15% base damage once you burst that enemy. And yeah, and all those enemies that die, if you can kill them while that toxin is on them, now that you have toxin on them, you haven't even hit them once, but now all those trash enemies, all you got to do is sometime in the next 3 seconds while they're dying like that, just walk through them and go boom, 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 and you get 2% for every single one. You're going to be resetting your stims like crazy with this talent. So yeah, I think this is easily one of the strongest like melee synergistic talents, it just adds toxin to your melee damage setup without ever having to swap, which is bonkers. So yeah, melee Hive Scum is god tier now. It's confirmed. It's the strongest melee class in the game, easily. Like there's really no competition at this point. It's going to be such crazy damage. It's going to be so hard to actually hurt him and pin him down. And the build overall for Hive Scum got better with this patch because they've removed some filler nodes. They've removed the builds are tighter, and you'll see that when I start to put out my builds when the patches release. There's extra nodes now. You aren't going to be as constrained on nodes. You'll have like 1 or 2 extra points in every build, and you'll have more utility instead of just going all damage or whatever they're for. And yeah, he's just getting stronger and stronger. Hopefully they can pump the brakes here. You know, they should still rework the Adrenaline Frenzy and Vulture's Mark nodes to make them like usable at least. Chemical dependency is very strong already, right? So it's not like they don't have to hold themselves back too much, because otherwise players will just keep choosing chemical dependency like they are. But yeah, these need some love in order to make them have parity and usability with the rest of the tree, and they should also be more inspired. Anyway, that is everything for the new Hive Scum's talent tree and a rework thereof. Look out for other videos based on all of the weapon reworks and changes that are coming, and the other class changes that are going to be condensed together, as well as everything else with this patch. I'm your guy. Thanks for watching, everyone. Mystery out. Bye-bye.